All right, so let's jump right into this interview. We have a special guest with Dan. I'm not really a Jedi, McLaren. So why don't you introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do at CG, and let's make it interesting. Add in who your favorite Star Wars character is.
Sure. My name is Daniel McLaren, and I'm the lead game designer for live operations, so I oversee basically all the content that goes out the door. And my favorite character is Asajj Ventress. She's the best.
Awesome choice.
It's because we're both bald. Yeah. I'm like, I can identify with somebody like her.
So I hear you're making your rounds today, so I'm glad that you stopped by on the channel.
Yeah, I'm happy to. It's been good.
This will be fun. So I have a few questions here. Don't feel pressured to answer them. I know some things are a little bit touchy, but we're going to mainly focus on Rey Jedi in training.
Cool.
So this is the second heroic journey character coming to the game. First one was Commander Luke, of course. And what's the studio's sort of intended goal for these type of characters, specifically for Rey? So we have, could you first off kind of describe what a legendary character is versus a heroic journey character? Is one supposed to be like stronger than the other? Are they supposed to be relatively the same? Are all heroic journey characters supposed to be relatively the same strength, etc.?
So when people kind of participate in the event structure, they get kind of a sense of where everything is, right? You go and you play a marquee, you kind of know the marquee is a bit of a grab bag at times. Some characters are going to be really dope, and some characters are going to be like, well, okay. It's kind of the backbone of how we keep characters coming into the game. So that way, when you get something like a legendary, you know that it's a step above whatever the best marquee character is going to be. Mm-hmm. And I think we've done pretty good, especially if you kind of look from Yoda forward, that we've just continued to get more consistent with how we deliver those characters. Hero's Journey is interesting because I don't think it's necessarily quantified as, oh yeah, this character is always better. But it is an important character, and so by default it kind of winds up being better, if that makes sense. I know it's a little weird, but these are characters that are so iconic and have such a clear trajectory through the movies or through a story that you look at and you go like, okay, Luke Skywalker, how could we ever just deliver him in a legendary event? He's too important. And what I mean by that is, like, there are so many people who love Luke Skywalker. He's so key to the original trilogy. He's key to this new trilogy, like handing off the baton to Rey so that Rey can become this key individual. So it just didn't seem right to say, like, okay, we'll just throw Luke and Rey into a standard legendary. There was never a point. Yeah, they're better, and we've worked hard to say, like, yes, they're much better. But there was never a point where we're just like, okay, cool, Luke's hero's journey always has to be just the greatest. Always has to push the boundary. I think Commander Luke Skywalker definitely does push the boundary, and we did kind of do that.
He pushes the boundary quite a bit.
Yeah, and so now we're in the spot where it's like, okay, this is as far as we want to go right now in the game as far as power goes. Everything is, we kind of set this benchmark of here's this outer limit for the current time in the game. So Rey needed to say come up to that benchmark, but she can't exceed that benchmark, because if she starts to exceed that benchmark, now we're getting into just like things be broke, and we didn't really want that. So with her, it was saying, like, all right, how do we keep the spirit of the hero's journey where she is truly the dopest that has ever doped, and that she's, that she would be right up there with Commander Luke Skywalker without actually exceeding Luke Skywalker.
So the goal was to be around that same level, not exceed it. And because she's, rich in the lore, you wanted to deliver her in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotcha. I mean, like I said, the next generation of Star Wars has begun, and she is the face of the next generation of Star Wars, and so you just have to you have to show love to that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So when you were creating Rey, Jedi in Training, I guess we can call her RGT. During character creation, it's sort of a unique process, and I wanted to know what does the studio do differently when there are already multiple versions of a character in the game? So we have multiple Hans, we have multiple Leias, now this is the second Rey. Sure. How does the studio tackle the creation of characters that already have a version of them already in the game?
So
any different?
No, it's actually not that different, because we do the same thing for every character. That is, we go, okay, who do we want to build? What is this? Who is this person? How do they exist inside the lore? Is this in the Legends universe? Is this in the canon universe? Okay, what resources do we have available to us? With somebody like Han, it's easy, because Han has this journey through the movies where you're just like, he is clearly different in a lot of... He's growing. He grows through this whole thing, and so you can just point to different things and go like, all right, he does these things. This is who he is at this point in time. Rey was even easier because she's two different people at these points in time, right? Like, in the first movie, she's this kid who's like, I'm on this planet. I don't know why I'm here. My parents left me. I know how to use a stick, and I can collect stuff. And she's got this simple life, and so everything about her at that point is just like, I beat people with a stick. And it's like, that's easy. That's good. Now she's becoming this complicated individual in a good way. She's growing. She's becoming this different person. Now she's got a stick with a laser on it, and she's like, now I get to beat people with this stick. But everything about that, even the movement style, the animation, the behaviors of using a lightsaber versus a staff, those are so different, and it's so symbolic of who she is. So it just, yeah, you just look at who they are at that point, and you go like, okay, they do these things, they move like this. This is kind of what's happening with her. This is the thing. So you go, all right, knowing what she's doing and where she's going and who she is at that point, what would we think that her abilities would be at this point in time? So it's not as difficult as some people would think, but it does require us to know, the lore at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of abilities, she kind of has a version in Battlefront 2. She has sort of a mind trick ability as well in that game.
Yep.
Did you guys, collaborate with the DICE studio, over at BF2 to kind of see how you could, make the character, or did that just kind of happen naturally?
So I think it happened naturally. I don't think there was ever a point where we called them and said, "Hey, can we see your Rey kit?" And you can see our Rey kit, and then we'll exchange notes. It didn't work like that. In fact, I believe our team didn't really get to see any of their character designs.
Okay.
I think, but we did have a. I can't really get too much into this and how that process is handled. I believe there was some feedback that we did receive, but I don't think it was like we picked up the phone and called DICE and said like, "Hey, let us see what you're doing," and they called us and said, "Hey, let us see what you're doing."
Ooh,
but there was definitely
phone call.
yeah, all right. Hey, we're super popular. But there definitely was some. There was a point where I think the kits crossed paths and some things were discussed.
Gotcha. Let's dive right into her kit real fast.
Sure.
She has an ability that applies healing immunity, a status effect that's a debuff.
It's like my favorite thing in the whole world.
Yes, it cannot be cleansed. Why did you settle on this debuff specifically for Rey? How do you just pick what debuff goes onto a character? For example, I think Kylo Ren also has a healing immunity debuff. So is there something about Rey and Kylo that screams that? And it's a new unique mechanic, right? We've had this debuff in the game before, but it's never been in a way where it cannot be cleansed. Any plans on replicating this with other future characters with this same debuff or a new one?
It's too early to tell, because it's one of those things where when we think about mechanics, a lot of times what we're doing is planning, and we're saying like, okay, with this next group of characters, we want to address these things. Mm-hmm. We know, then it's going to be like, okay, we want to address these things. So we have kind of this list of abilities that either have one, in worst case scenario, gotten totally out of control. We're just like, okay, we have to deal with that. It needs to be dealt with. And then there's always things that we're just like, okay, we know that this is going to go out the door, and we know that it has a lifespan of X, and we know that we're going to have to deal with it when that, when it kind of comes to its full fruition and starts becoming a problem in the arena or in the raids or whatever it is. So with healing, immunity, debuff, there's not really a solid counter to healers. I don't think there's ever really been. Maybe Nihilus, but he's kind of a counter to everybody. And so it became more of an issue of saying, okay, healing Xeris is getting a bit out of control at the moment. So how do we address that? And Ray and Kylo just kind of fell in at a great point in time. And with Ray being like such an iconic character, and we could do something really big with her. That's a really cool thing about like a big character like Ray or Luke or whatever. You could go big on it and say, all right, we're going to do something really cool here. We're really going to put in like a different, mechanic or whatever. And so it just worked out. Yeah, it just worked out that way.
Nice. So you have some things that need to be addressed, and it was, it just worked out with Ray in particular.
Yeah, look, in a game like this, there's always things that need to be addressed. Like, I don't think we'll ever be at a point where it's like, cool, it's perfectly balanced and everything works like, like it's supposed to. It's always going to be, well, look, this is broken, or somebody found a, cheese strategy with this guy, or, maybe it's, or, best case scenario, it's just like, okay, well, it's too powerful. It's been in the top meta way too long, and nobody can get around it, and we don't want that.
So I'm assuming in the near future we'll have something to kind of address Luke, maybe?
Well, we already did. Night Sisters completely obliterates Luke. Night Sisters just decimates Luke. And also, Ray will break Luke pretty badly, too.
Nice.
So,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So that's some Ray questions in kind of generally speaking. I have a few others on Ray and kind of Resistance. Resistance have a passive bonus in Territory Wars, one of the newest game modes. Do you recommend that Ray is used sort of in a defensive or offensive manner in this game mode? And for example, like when Ray comes out, it seems like she's more of a PvP character, kind of designed to bring Resistance to a new level, and Territory Wars is all about kind of PvP. Do you guys develop characters for these certain modes in mind, or do they kind of naturally end up being better in a particular area? What was sort of what do you think about where Ray is in where she's going to take Resistance in Territory Wars and Arena?
So, excuse me. Objectively speaking, Ray is probably the best defensive character in the game. And when I say defensive, I mean like AI can use her really well, and she's set up in a way that, if you have her on your defensive team, the AI is probably going to use her probably better than any other character currently. Yeah. So that was kind of a big point for us, is trying to address the inconsistencies in defense. So I think she's kind of a step, one of the many steps we've been trying to make to address that. So she's really good there. But a lot of times we look at it and we go like, okay, where does this character fit? With characters like legendaries and hero's journey characters, they kind of need to be jack of all trades. When you get down into the marquees, you can make them specific. You say like, well, this guy's just really good for raids, or this guy's really good for territory battles. This guy's good for galactic war because we know what's kind of happening there or whatever. With Ray, it's more like, okay, well, we definitely want her to shine. Territory Wars is kind of our new thing, and we want people to shine in that space, and it's PvP, so we definitely wanted a character that could be thrown in there. And like, look, our ultimate goal is to get the PvP to a place where metas are, it's just, you look at the top 20, it's like, cool, lots of different combinations. I can't stand opening up the PvP ranks and going like, cool, Rex, CLS. Yeah. Like, I hate that. And so it's just, the goal is to get us to a place where, like, even if somebody is consistently used as a lead, at least the party compositions are different. So we kind of start there and just go, all right. With Ray, it was like, okay, we know she's got to be good at a lot of things. because she's a valuable character, and people are. It's a lot. Like, we kind of try to gauge it with like, the more we expect you to invest in a character, the better that character should be globally. At a lot of things. And so for her, it was really important for us to go like, she has to beat CLS. She can't be better than CLS, which are two mutually exclusive things. She's got to be good in territory war, since that's what we're dropping right now. And, she's pretty god tier in a couple aspects of the raid. So,
yeah, I'm excited to try her out in a few raid battles myself.
Oh yeah. If you're a raid person, she's yeah.
So she's very good defensively. Gotcha. I'll have to look into that. Just an extra question on that. Did you ever think about improving the resistance kind of expose defense AI? Just maybe making them a little bit smarter on targeting those characters with expose?
So that's yeah, we've talked about this. The problem is that if we make AI too smart with resistance and the expose AI, it decimates people. Like, it's almost unbeatable in many ways. So you kind of come into this thing where you're like, AI, geez, AI is actually kind of the thing that helps give kind of an even playing field, and that people actually have a shot at a lot of stuff. When we start getting too deep into defensive AI, it just turns into a massacre for players, especially non-top tier players, right? Like, yeah, sure, the 2% of the best players in the entire game, yeah, the defensive AI is going to be great for them. Everybody else, it's going to be a massacre.
Gotcha. So you looked into it and it was too strong.
We're not ready yet to do any massive AI passes at this time. Gotcha.
So a few miscellaneous questions, and I guess we'll wrap up here.
Cool.
So the officer tools that came with territory wars and territory battles, they're great.
Cool.
Are they still being worked on? Any more sort of capabilities and control in the hands of guild leaders and officers?
My ultimate dream is that you guys have the best freaking social tools that you could ever want in the game. So I think there's several of us on staff who are just like, every opportunity we can get to continue to improve social tools and provide more tools to guild officers and guild members and even people who aren't in guilds, like, we're going to take that opportunity. It's a little bit more work than I think we initially anticipated, and people who are listening across multiple podcasts where I'm talking are going to say like, yeah, but you said that about this other thing. Yes, building a game is not like building, laying bricks. Or maybe it is like laying bricks. I don't know. I've never laid bricks before. But you get into a thing where you're like, I need to fix this thing, and you realize like 14 things are dependent on this thing, and then you go and fix it, and it's like, oops, I broke something else. Or you're like, ooh, it has to be completely rewritten because nobody thought to do it in a way that was going to be extensible or whatever. But yes, our goal, we want to have better social features. It's never going to stop. I don't know when the next iteration of social or guild communication features are coming, but it is something we talk about constantly and have a lot of ideas around. So
that's good to hear. And I guess they might do sort of a quality of life patch. You guys
we try to do that.
Do them throughout the year, and then sometimes you just do them all in bulk, like bam, here we go, quality of life.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's good. That's good that you guys are thinking about that and working towards that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Last question.
Sure.
And I got to ask, because a lot of my subscribers, I've kind of built...
Is it about General Grievous?
Nope. Okay, I think Arnold probably covered that one.
Yeah, I got a couple of those today.
I got to ask, Dark Side Love. All right.
Okay. So this is the
question.
Work with
me here.
This has been...
Work with me here. Ready?
No, this is a question everybody's asking, this Dark Side Love.
Okay. First of all, First Order units, where are they?
Where are they? Okay.
Palpatine Zetas.
Sure.
Give me 2. 3.
Okay.
I'll be happy with 2.
Okay.
Zader seems like he needs to be patched up again.
Sure, totally.
And so Darth Revan.
All right, I'll tell you the same thing I have said, which is I promise you Dark Side Love is coming. I promise you. That said, this is a bit of a tough window of time. A lot of people are like, how come you haven't done anything? Dude, we were sandwiched against Rogue One and then coming into TLJ, like Rebels. There's just been a lot of Thrawn. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of like helping determine what we're doing in the future. We do want to stay topical, because if we don't stay somewhat topical, people go like, then I have the other question. How come you didn't do, Last Jedi Rey? How come you didn't do Thrawn? And then it's like, okay, great. Well, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. But I promise Dark Side Love is coming. Yes.
Okay, so something
we are
something
aware
to
of
look
these
forward
things.
to.
We have Dark Side lovers in the building. And so, yes. And the other problem is, like, the whole series of Star Wars is built around the rebels, right? Like, it's a rebellion, right? It's a story about a rebellion and a boy who thought he could do good and did. So, and now it's a story about a girl who thinks she can do well and will. So
it would be kind of boring if they didn't have anyone cool to fight against, though, right?
Right. I know. Look, you're preaching to the choir, man. I promise. Dark Side Love's coming.
All right. Well, thank you for
my pleasure.
Taking the time. I think this was fun, and I maybe we can do this again. I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just want to say thanks for really knocking this out. You winged it. I asked you beforehand. You want to see these questions, and you handled them very well. So thank you.
I appreciate it. No, thank you for having me on. I sincerely appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and I hope everyone listening out there enjoys this.
Great. Have a good day.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Killers understand it.